Hi, my name is Jordan Bowles, and for the reading ladder, I will be looking at Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. The central question that I have been asking about this novel, and that we will look at the scaffolding text that I have chosen. The question is how does Long Way Down support the transition in wanting revenge to freely giving forgiveness? The first, oh, okay. The first text that I chose for the reading letter was an interview with the author, Jason Reynolds, about humanity. Oh, we'll move this so you can see it. The human journey. So basically, in this interview, he talks about Long Way Down, and he connects it to the major theme that is found in Long Way Down of wanting revenge but giving forgiveness. And I just think this is a really good way to begin this entire lesson because not only does it introduce the novel, it introduces Jason Reynolds and his perspective of his own writing. And it also kind of narrows in on what the central question is as we're wanting to talk about. Second, oh, no, I don't want to play, is an article. It's a informative article called Mirrors, Windows, and Sliding Glass Doors. And basically, this article is something that I would like to read with my students all together. It talks about how as you read literature, you're either going to see it as a mirror and it's mirroring your life, or a window you can see in a way of just someone else's life, or a sliding glass door. And in this article, it actually talks about how non-white people are not represented as much in literature and how that needs to change. And I felt like this was great because having a Black male author is a great way to create diversity in our classroom. And I just think that this would be a really good way for students to go in. We haven't started the book yet by this point, and it allows students to kind of understand and realize how they're going to maybe view this novel and how that they can proceed in this perspective. Next, with the scaffolding text is the Long Way Down novel. So we will begin at this point reading the novel, and we'll read it together. And yes, I chose this novel because it gives a diverse background. It lets students understand a different perspective, and it just allows all voices to be heard in the classroom. So my canonical text to connect to Long Way Down is On Revenge by Francis Bacon. This was in, I think it was 1625 was when he wrote it. And it is a poem that he wrote about how revenge is just like to not seek revenge. And it talks about how when you do choose revenge, that it is a selfish act, and how that's basically what it talks about. And so I think that this is really good to connect to Long Way Down, because the majority of Long Way Down is talking about revenge, and that is what Will wants to seek. And then at the very end is when you kind of realize that, like, for him to be for him to be freed is not by getting revenge, but it is by forgiving. So I think that this would be a good text for the students. One, it gives us a different generation. It gives us a different type of literature because it's a poem. And so I think that this is a good canonical text to connect with Long Way Down. So I thought to bring some pop into it with Kellie Pickler, I Forgive You. And it's just a song that she writes about having chains and being weighed down, and just kind of being weighed down by the pain and for not forgiving someone. And in the end, she learns how to forgive someone. And I just think that this is really good because it kind of shows the growth from forgiveness, or from revenge to forgiveness. And that is kind of what this entire theme and question is about, is just that transformation. And I think that her song just kind of adds a fun flair to the sources. So. Okay, so my next source is kind of going with the whole scaffolding and connections and the transition is this picture of an elevator. I think it's an elevator scaffold. I don't really exactly know what this is called, but it's just what an elevator goes up and down in with a hotel, whatever building it is. And then I liked this. I found this is on a website, and I found this picture, and then it also came with description of questions that you could have with a discussion. And so I really wanted to include those because it helps. It helps visual learners understand the like different chain of events that kind of goes from revenge to forgiveness, and it also just helps students analyze this novel on their own while visually looking at something and asking inquiry questions. For my 8th one, or my 7th one, is a TED Talk with Craig Pinkney. I don't want to say that wrong, but it is a TED Talk, and it talks about how I chose this for my final source for the scaffolding in the reading ladder because the real roots of youth violence is something that connects to our students, and it connects to their lives, and they can see how this can implement, like this literature can be implemented in their own lives. And it kind of just gives an understanding of why this may happen, what occurs, what thoughts are happening. And it talks about how if people turn to violence, usually it's because they are giving and giving, and they just kind of feel invisible sometimes, and that they seek that attention through violence. And he talks about this, and then he also talks about how oh, sorry, I blanked out. So he also talks about how what you could do and advocate for your community, and what you can notice, and what questions you need to ask to notice those things to be able to help your own community. And so I think that that's a really good way to end this entire unit, this lesson, because it shows you the growth and through all the other sources, and he explains it, but then he also gives you a way to use it and apply it to our own lives. And I think that that's really important in the classroom, is to connect it to in each individual life. So this is my reading ladder, so thank you so much for joining.